Welcome to another edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up. During this program, we will highlight the agenda items presented to the Lakeville City Council at their March 18th, 2013 meeting. First highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5A, Parks and Recreation Department Monthly Report. And to give the background information on this agenda item is Parks and Recreation Director Brett Altergott.
Starting off with the Arts Center, we had a total of just over 2,300 people attend 8 performances during the last 2 months. Highlighted, we had Aaron Aldridge, Highview Hills Coffee Concert, Jack Frost Children's Theater. They performed. We had the Johnny Cash Show, which was with the Rotary at Lakeville South, an evening of art and dance, and Don't Say You Don't Remember. Or Don't Say You Don't Remember. That was a good one. I attended that one as well. Other highlights are the youth art exhibit that was there. That was also well attended. When they opened that up on February 25th, you had on the main level, as you walk into the high school, middle school, just outside in the lower lobby, and all the elementary schools in the multi-purpose room downstairs. It was a neat event, a lot of great art. We have some very talented young artists in this community. Park maintenance, we continued building ice rinks through February 18th. We had a very good year for building rinks, and as you can see, it's still continuing, but we had to move on to other priorities. We had a very good year for ice. We also had to contend with a lot of snow removal, and as you can see, there's shots, pictures of us doing the pathways. We do keep up on those so we can keep the pathways open and be as efficient as we possibly can. As you can see in 2 of the pictures, we're using plows, truck and a V-plow on a tractor. If we let it go too long, you end up doing more snow blowing, which slows down the process and will keep the trails shut down for a longer period of time. So we've been keeping up pretty well this year. Another major project, you can see the East Community Park, the big boardwalk. We had some damage. It shifted a little bit, separated in a corner. That picture was probably taken in the fall. And then we waited till winter because we could get underneath the bridge with a ladder. So that was made it easier to repair for us. So we had it blocked off for a number of months. They continued to, park maintenance also constructed picnic tables as usual. And we constructed some new bleachers for the Miracle League and some replacement bleachers at Aronson. We want to let everyone know that the tree and shrub sale is coming. We have 8 varieties of trees, 5 shrub varieties. There's really good prices. And then people have an option to donate a linden to a city park. All this information about the species and information on the trees is available on the city website as well, along with the prices and an order sheet. You can also order online. And that goes through April 22nd. Pickup will be at Central Maintenance on April 27th. Recreation, 190 kids participated in Learn to Skate. January 18th, we had the Winter Wonder Nature Program at Ritter. I did not attend that one, unfortunately. It was well attended and a great event. The February 2nd to 13th annual fishing contest. There was some concern going into the week. We were going to have some issues, but the temperatures dropped nicely, made sure the ice was safe, and we have 400 attend that event. As well as on February 15th with the Little Princesses Ball with the South of the River Recreators, we actually had to add, along with all the other communities, a second date to that. So there was one earlier in the day and then one in the evening. So it was, again, well attended, 184 couples. We also continued on the 24th, we had Ritterfest. Unbelievable weather for Ritterfest this year. We counted 320 attending. We're estimating there's probably more than that. That's just the head count that we could get. People enjoyed the dog sled rides. That was line after line. We were able to take 20 additional. And the dogs gave out before the line did. So it was really good. And the snowmobiles just kept going, along with all the other educational snow cave building, the s'mores, the snowshoeing. It was just absolutely perfect day, and you can tell by the attendance. Also, our brochure is out. You can view it online. It should be delivered to residents. Should have been or should be in the mail this week. So anytime this week, all the way up to the 23rd, you should see it in your mailbox. But again, you can check it out online, and registration is immediate. As far as the senior center, we had 40 new members in January and February, so it brings our total up to 962. Some new classes are yoga, and again, I think we're trying to highlight is the exercise room is being utilized, so it is seeing an increase in that area. Senior socialize during morning coffee. I've gone over there a number of times, and that's something they look forward to, and they sit in that little lounge area. That's really well utilized, especially first thing in the morning. Again, we talked about it last month. We had a new tatting class that's growing. Lakeville Police hosted communities against senior exploitation, and fraud prevention. And then we had 45 attend the Valentine's Day potluck, as well as continuing thing, the chair massages and the AARP taxes, which go through April 15th. Along with that, just as a reminder, I know that with the seniors being at the Heritage Center, next month you will get the quarterly report. So that'll be part of my monthly report. Just some upcoming things. March 20th, we have an afternoon of dance at the Heritage Center. March 23rd, we have the Easter event. We have two time slots. There's still spots available for those wishing to register. Other things coming up at the Arts Center, March 22nd through 24th. Again, a children's theater is putting on Charlotte's Web. April 6th, One Book, One Lakeville by Jamie Ford. And then April 12th through 21st, Wage Warfare. So those are all things coming up during the next month. Is there any questions?
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 5B, Police Department Monthly Report. And to present the information on this agenda item is Chief of Police Tom Von Hoff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll be presenting my February monthly report for 2013. I'm going to start out the monthly report by hitting the right, there we go, by hitting the right key. In partnership with the community that we serve, we are dedicated to reducing crime, problem solving, and ensuring the quality of life in Lakeville. And every month we look at several selected categories, see how we're doing in that area. Reducing crime, we had no homicides, 2 sexual criminal conduct cases reported, no robberies, 5 domestic assaults, 9 year to date, 2 other assaults, 8 burglaries, 11 year to date, and 22 fraud cases with 32 year to date. In problem solving and traffic safety, 63 traffic crashes versus 50 last year. Speed citations, 39 versus 102 last year. You may remember that last year we had no snow in February. People drive faster then. Seatbelt violations, 4 versus 17. DUIs, 14 versus 16. And total traffic stops, 529 versus 1277. Quality of life, 103 medicals, 48 crisis-related calls, 69 animal calls, 132 suspicion calls, and 621 total phone calls. The year-to-date police CAD calls, you see at 2278 versus 3444 last year. Looking at that, it looks like there should be less year-to-date for the total year-to-date of 4857, but you have to remember that in January we were on a different record system last year, which kind of threw our numbers off for the year-to-date numbers. Property crimes, 28% for fraud, NSF checks, and swindle cases. There's one case involved in there that we have a suspect, and there will be charges forthcoming on that specific case, and that will solve almost a quarter of those cases that happened there in that one. It's a little unusual. Usually our theft under $500 is the highest category in property crimes. And just looking at that from last year, the only area that's been increased is our fraud, NSF checks, and swindle cases. And I'm going to talk about a pretty significant swindle case in my monthly report. On the street crimes, there's 4 search warrants and 2 of interest here. The first warrant, the street crimes unit seized over 90 grams of marijuana, just a felony amount, $300 in cash, and drug paraphernalia. But most interesting on this warrant is Detective Michelle Roberts was also able to conduct several interviews refereeing an active CSC investigation, which is interesting because the warrant resulted in more information on that active case. There's a second search warrant that is also of interest. It was executed with the assistance of the Dakota County Drug Task Force and our patrol officers. As a result of that warrant, there's a half pound of marijuana, several items of paraphernalia, $5,734 in cash, and 2 individuals charged with narcotics violations. And then just a notable thing, street crimes units officers assisted the patrol officers with a theft in progress at Mills Fleet Farm. I happened to be on that call, and the officers were, security was watching them in the store, the individuals who were taking a felony amount of things, and the street crimes officers were able to make the arrest when they walked out. Traffic safety unit, Officer Adam Steyer responded to a number of different traffic concerns throughout the month. As I said, we had 63 traffic crashes versus 50 in February, and you can see this is just one of those crash scenes. And this is very typical out at night to see this type of a scene. When you look at it here, it looks like chaos, but this is what officers come upon when they get to these scenes when we have these snow events, as we did today. 124 traffic stops, 50 citations were issued, 7 DUI arrests, 1 felony narcotics arrest out of a DUI arrest. And Officer Steyer also worked in 4 Dakota County Traffic Safety Enforcement Project events, which are enforcement events throughout the Dakota County area. February snow events. I know that Sergeant John Corman's sitting way in the back of the room here, and every Monday that Sergeant Corman's day team works, we seem to have a snowstorm. So I'm giving them the rest of the winter off on Mondays. And it's uncanny because they're not on every Monday, but every Monday they're on, we've been having a snowstorm as we did today. And we had a lot of snow events, and it seems like this year, you know, it's an interesting thing about when we have snow events, and I'm sure Mr. Petrie would share this also with me, is that when it snows during rush hour, we obviously have more issues, and it seems like we've been getting them, they've been just hitting us really at the wrong time. This is a typical scene that you see out on the interstate where our officers are assisting with traffic, and there was a crash, and the semi went off into the center divider to avoid further damage. But this is a very common scene this year, and as we know today, even we had a number of crashes and vehicles in the ditch, and very challenging compared to last year. Commercial burglary arrest. Officer Sean Fitzhenry responded to a burglary alarm and comes up, and this truck's parked around back, walks around and starts talking to the individual. The individual said he was a contractor. Well, Officer Fitzhenry didn't think that was right and saw another set of footprints going around the building. Then he looked, and there was another person hiding around the side of the building. Officer Chad Loeffler came down and assisted him. They took those 2 people into custody. They found that they had broken into the back of the building and charged them both with the commercial burglary. An in-progress arrest, a great job by both the officers. Another interesting case, and you may have seen this on the news, this is one of the fraud cases. And in this case, the individual was renting the residence and put it on Craigslist as being able to rent it out, and presented herself as the owner of the residence, which she was not, and took deposits from people and then would not return their deposits. And we have about 18 victims on this. The deposits amounts were from like $400 to $600 each. So pretty significant crime that, and we had that person arrested and charged very quickly on that once we were able to put this together. And of course, the failing on this case was that as long as the victims didn't know each other, they just thought that it was kind of a civil issue, but 2 of them happened to know each other and figured out that they had tried to rent the same house. And so that's how that came together. Very interesting case. So just one of those things, and like I say, I think we're up to 18 victims on that particular case. Theft of metal from business arrest. This is Officer Bob Dorfler made this arrest at the end of the month, charged 4 individuals with this theft, and we've arrested a number of individuals for these metal thefts, and they'll take these metal thefts, businesses will place the metal behind their business, and then they turn it in. Obviously, it has a value, and people will come in and steal the metal and then turn it into metal recyclers for cash. And so we've charged a number of these this winter, it seems, more than in the past, and this is just one case where Officer Dorfler, again, caught him in progress and was able to arrest 4 individuals and charge them with theft. Minnesota MAD Awards was on February 25th, and Adam Steyer received an award for outstanding service for his work in DUI enforcement. And our own Andy Henches, who's the school resource officer from North High School, received School Resource Officer of the Year. And this was an event that was held at the Minnesota Science Museum on the 25th. We also had a domestic abuse luncheon this year. This is the 28th year. There you see in the photo Sal Mandelli, who's the director of 360s Communities. That's Chief John Harrington, who's the MTC chief right now, but was the St. Paul Police chief, a great proponent in fighting domestic violence. And that's Leanne Block, who is a survivor of domestic violence. Sadly, her daughter Michaela was murdered by her husband. And we had a very moving speech by Leanne and Chief Harrington, and over 300 people in attendance at this event. Again, an annual event that our police department and 360 Communities puts on for the past 28 years, really to draw attention to domestic violence. And this is good news. We have been recognized in the top 100 safest cities in the United States by Neighborhood Scout Incorporated, which is a real estate company that looks, and every year since 2002 they've done this annual recognition, and they take all cities over the population of 25,000 in the United States, look at the UCR crime rates, which are Part 1 and Part 2 crimes, and look at it in comparison to the population, and the top 100 safest cities are then recognized. And Lakeville, as you can see, was the 86th safest city in America, and this is off of 2011 data. A good recognition, and something I've never seen before for our department. So, and that concludes my report for February.
Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 7, consider resolution scheduling a public assessment hearing for Improvement Project 13-02. And to begin a series of presentations, here's Public Works Director Chris Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My pleasure to be here with you this evening, and the purpose of our presentation tonight, or at the end of it, is for the council to consider a resolution scheduling a public assessment hearing for our 2013 street reconstruction project, which is also called Project 1302. Just as a way of background, because it's been a handful of months since we've spoke with the council about this project, it's in 2 phases, 2 unique areas in the city. One is in kind of the northeast corner of the city, in the Valley Park area. You can see Cedar Avenue on the west side of the map, and County Road 46 or 160th on the north side. All the areas highlighted in yellow in this area are proposed to be reconstructed. Then the second area is actually kind of in the southwest corner of the city, so opposite ends of the city. And this is the Clays Acres neighborhood, as well as the little loop street on the top of the map is 204th Street. The main collector roadway that runs north and south, just as a point of reference for everyone, is Jacquard Avenue. So a little bit additional background, project background. This process started back in the summer of 2012, where we held our first neighborhood meetings on August 1st and August 8th. The council then, we provided council feedback from those neighborhood meetings, and the council at your August 20th council meeting authorized a feasibility report. The feasibility report was completed, and the council set a public hearing date at your August 15th meeting of 2012. The project public hearing and ordering of the project was done in November. And then lastly, just recently, and that's why we're here in front of you tonight, we were able to open bids and compute the assessments, and now we are prepared to set the assessment hearing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our project engineer and project manager, Ms. Monica Heil from WSB & Associates. Ms. Heil.
Thank you, Mr. Petrie. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the improvements proposed for the 2013 street improvement project do vary based on project area. Within the Valley Park area, which is that area in the northeast corner of the city, complete street reconstruction is proposed. All of the concrete curb and gutter that exists in the neighborhood will be replaced as a part of the project. There is some sidewalk within this project area, and that sidewalk in need of repair or replacement will be addressed with the improvements, and there will also be some additional storm sewer improvements as a part of the street work in this area. Along 204th Street, it is also proposed to completely reconstruct the streets. Right now, a bituminous-style curb exists along 204th Street, and with the project, it is proposed to install concrete curb and gutter to both address drainage issues and prolong the life cycle of the pavement along 204th Street. And similar to the other project areas, storm sewer improvements will be made with the project. Within Clay's Acres, the streets will be completely reconstructed. There is some sidewalk along 208th Street that also will be replaced as a part of the project. New concrete curb and gutter will be installed to replace the bituminous curb that currently exists along all of the streets in this area. Storm sewer improvements will also be made, and all of the drain tile that currently exists within the area will be replaced, and each home within this portion of the project will receive new drain tile services as a part of the improvements. Additionally, there are water main improvements proposed for both the Valley Park and the Clay's Acres areas. Within Valley Park, the water main along 167th Street between Gladiola and Jardine Path is proposed to be replaced due to the recent break history in that area. Additionally, there are cul-de-sacs along Gannon Avenue and Gladiola Avenue that currently have only 2-inch mains serving the houses within that area. It is proposed to upsize the water mains within those cul-de-sacs to meet current city standards. And those are the cul-de-sacs there pointed out with the arrows. Within Clay's Acres, there's been a more extensive water main break history in the area. 19 recorded water main breaks to date. Along Iteri Avenue, there have been a total of 13 water main breaks. There was a geotechnical investigation completed this past fall, and it was determined that the soils in this area were corrosive, and therefore it is proposed to replace the existing iron water main within this particular area of the project with plastic water main to address those issues with corrosion in the soil. Additionally, some of you may be familiar with the fact that the city applied for and did receive a grant from the Metropolitan Council for some sanitary sewer improvements to be completed in conjunction with the project. The city received a grant to address some of the inflow and infiltration issues it experiences with its sanitary sewer system. And so as you look at the map there, that sanitary sewer main that's highlighted in pink along Italy Avenue, Isle Avenue, and Iran Avenue, as well as a portion of 208th Street, is going to be lined as a part of the sewer improvements. There will also be some casting replacements, which are the metal covers on the manholes, and some chimney seals installed on all the manholes to further prevent water entering our city's sanitary sewer system. Similarly, within the Valley Park area, all of the manholes will receive chimney seals to keep the water out of the manholes, and there will be some casting replacements and manhole reconstructs completed as a part of the street improvement project. As we look at the project costs, the original estimate produced with the feasibility report was approximately $8.5 million. Bids were received on March 8th, and based on the bid results, the project costs are totaled to be $7.419 million, which is an overall reduction of about 12.8% from the feasibility estimate. And as we look at how the costs break down, City of Lakeville capital improvement plan funds have been reduced by about 16% from the estimate that was produced with the feasibility report. The street and storm sewer assessment amounts were reduced by about 20%. The water operating fund, well, the estimate that we had prepared with the feasibility report was nearly exactly what came in with the bid results, and so there wasn't as significant a reduction in the water operating funds needed for the improvements, but nonetheless, it was about a reduction of 3.6%. The sanitary sewer fund has also been reduced in part due to the funds that were received from the Metropolitan Council in the form of grant monies. But as you see, based on the bid results, most of the cost savings were actually realized in the street and storm sewer improvements, thus reducing the assessments for the project. And as we look at the different assessment amounts for the different project areas, we did break them out based on geographic location to reflect the improvements being constructed within each of the project areas. Those residents within the Valley Park area will have assessments of about $3,200, which is a 20% reduction from the estimate prepared with the feasibility report. Residents along 204th Street, which will be receiving new concrete curb and gutter, which is 100% accessible in accordance with the city's assessment policy, they'll see a reduction of about 14.5% from the estimate prepared with the feasibility report. There is a cul-de-sac within Clay's Acres. It's the Isle Avenue cul-de-sac that does currently have concrete curb and gutter along its streets. And because of that, the city's assessment policy would dictate that those residents are responsible for 40% of the costs associated with replacing that curb and gutter, and not 100% of the costs associated with installing new concrete curb and gutter. And so therefore, because there is existing curb and gutter along that particular cul-de-sac, those residents will see an assessment amount of $5,084, whereas those residents within the rest of Clay's Acres that do not currently have concrete curb and gutter, their assessment amount is now calculated at $6,040, which is still a 10.5% reduction from the estimate prepared with the feasibility report. And with that, I will turn it back to Mr. Petrie to talk a little bit about the project schedule.
Well, thank you, Ms. Heil. So moving forward, here we are this evening on March 18th, declaring the costs and asking the council to consider setting assessment hearing. The assessment hearing is proposed to be held on April 15th of 2013. We would then propose to award a construction contract on May 6th at the council's regular meeting. Construction would then occur in May through November of 2013, and certifying assessments at the end of 2013. With that, our next steps in front of you is a resolution calling for a public hearing on the proposed assessments for City Project 13-02, and with that, myself or Ms. Heil will stand for any questions.
Item number 7 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Next highlighted item on the agenda is item number 8, Second Amendment to Contract for Private Development with Image Trend LLC. And to give the background information on this agenda item is Community and Economic Development Director Dave Olson.
I was just doing the math real quickly to determine how many current council members were on the council in August of 2009 when we approved the original contract for Image Trend, and I'm counting one. So I will give a little bit of a brief overview. Hopefully you had enough information in your packet. But in August of that year, the council approved a contract for private development that authorized the sale to Image Trend of city-owned parcel that was 3.39 acres in size, and it was adjacent to their existing building. And the property in question is this rectangular lot that is at the end of what is now a temporary cul-de-sac in the Fairfield Business Campus. And Image Trend's existing building, and this is shown prior to the expansion, was adjacent to that, and we had reached an agreement with Image Trend at that point to convey that land to them for future expansions of Image Trend. And the nature of the transaction was such that the fair market value of the property was determined at that point, and the agreement that was negotiated called for Image Trend to pay 1/3 of that fair market value of that parcel at the time of closing, 1/3 of the total purchase price. And then the contract was structured such that the remaining 2/3 would be forgiven if certain events occurred, and those events included the completion of at least 50,000 square feet of building expansion, and that was intended and always planned to take place in 2 phases. And then the other requirement, the main requirement of that contract was the creation of a minimum of an additional 121 jobs. At the time we did the project in 21 jobs. At the time we did the project in 2009, and I should I think Mr. Davis was on the Planning Commission at the time this project came through for the approvals from that body in terms of the approvals it needed. But those were the 2 caveats, and the timeframes that were established in the agreement was that the first phase, and I'll move to the next slide, that showed the first expansion, which was required to be completed by the end of 2011, and this is a more recent aerial, and this is the 27,000 square feet that was constructed and completed by the end of 2011 per the original contract for private development. And also at that time, the company had met its 21 and exceeded, since then, the minimum number of jobs that were required to be created. So 2 of the 3 main provisions of the development contract, contract for private development, I should say, were completed by the end of 2011. The remaining requirement called for a second expansion to take place, and that is likely to be a freestanding building that will occur just to the west of the existing building. was originally scheduled to be completed at the end of 2013. November 30th is what the original contract called for. As the letter from Mr. McBrady, who's in attendance, and when I get done with my comments, I'd like to introduce and he'll give the council a brief overview of where things are at as of today at Image Trend and their continued growth. But they have room for an additional 100 employees in addition to the 146 that they have out there currently. So they've more than doubled the job creation requirements. Again, they created 46 additional jobs, which is more than double the original required 21. And they still have room for more than 100 additional employees to be added. And at their growth rate, they anticipate that it would take an additional, the next 3 years to fill that available space that they have today in the expansion that was completed in 2011. So for that reason, Image Trend is requesting that the city amend the original contract for private development to extend that completion date for the second phase expansion to December 31 of 2015. So it's basically a 2-year extension. In that time, they have filled the existing square footage that they have, and based on their, and I'll let Mr. McBrady talk about that, forecasted growth of the company, they will then need additional space sometime at the end of 2015. This is an exterior shot. This is the 2-story addition that was added to the 1-story building, and you can kind of see the transition, and it blended in very well, and they actually went back and redid the exterior of the original building to match and introduce more earth tones, and it turned out very well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I guess I'd like to turn it over, and either Mr. McBrady or myself can certainly stand for any questions.
Item number 8 was approved by the Lakeville City Council. Well, those were the agenda items presented to the council at their March 18th, 2013 meeting. If you have any questions or comments regarding these agenda items, please feel free to call City Hall. The number is 952-985-4400. Thanks for watching this edition of Lakeville City Council Wrap-Up.
Hey everyone, Mr. Pugh here, reminding everyone in Dakota County to use the recycling zone. The recycling zone is open Wednesday through Saturday. They accept various electronics like computers, TVs, and VCRs. For a full list of items and specific hours, go to www.dakotacounty.us and search for the recycling zone. So if you want to go green, do it here at the recycling zone. Oh, good job.